Hello and welcome to another episode of TFG Indian Football Roundup presented by Rayor. Go to the official Rayor website to get the coolest possible Kerala Blasters merchandise. And talking about Kerala, today we're going to talk to somebody who hails from that state. It's Nevin Thomas, who you know as the man behind Kalpanthu, a YouTube channel devoted to Indian football that I'm really fond of. Because it's one of those efforts around Indian football that does not just report about it or analyze it, but tries to tell the story of Indian football from every nook and corner. It infuses an amount of creativity in documenting the expansion and growth and cultural immersion of Indian football in a way that few other YouTube channels do. Nevin is also an experienced journalist and an integral part of the Indian football family that we have on Twitter. And he has an independent voice, which is very valuable in times like these when Indian football is going through such a sea change. He also sends out the Vuvuzela newsletter, which I subscribe to and enjoy very much. Let's jump into the conversation with him right now.
So, for the benefit of us non-Malayali speaking people, what does Kalpanthu mean?
Kalpanthu literally means football in Malayalam and actually in Tamil. So no surprises what the page is about or what the channel is about. If you ask me why I took it, I think I kind of always wanted to create something more regional. Something that's catering towards South India or Kerala and Tamil Nadu in specific. That was the original idea. So that's why I chose Kalpanthu. But I also think that's an easy word or it's a cute word for people to recognize and have certain, recall value to it. So I thought even the non-Malayalam or Tamil speakers, they will have that, just like we say La Masia and Barcelona, things like that. It'll be a catchy word for people to use. So that was the idea behind Kalpanthu. It's like for a Malayali, it's just a normal word. They won't get excited when you hear Kalpanthu because everybody uses it all the time. But yeah, it literally means football.
Yeah, so I can imagine the effect now that if I go to Kerala and I'm sitting at a football stadium and people are talking, I'll just be reminded of your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that is also one way of looking at it. Yes.
Yeah, so what was the circumstances around the channel being created? Like, what led to it?
That is a. I say honestly, I don't have a clear answer per se. It's a mix of two, three things. Honestly, I kind of wanted to do a certain kind of journalism, and I know we've been talking to each other. I mean, we've been friends for a while now. So I
Mhm.
worked in Sportstar, I worked in Network 18, I've had a stint with Star Sports as well. So uh, what kind of happened is that I realized that there are certain kind of stories that I want to do. Why what these non or what these mainstream news organizations didn't care so much about. It's not me blaming or taking shots or anything. I can understand them not being concerned about a very small audience or a small story in a seemingly insignificant land. For them, they have a national audience to cater to. They have limited resource to work with. So that is what it is. So I realized there's no point fighting the system. I have to go change the system myself. So this idea was always there. This was I think in 2016 or early 17 when I was working at the Hindu then, and Rohit Ramesh called me to his room, and there was another journalist from the Hindu as well. So I was representing Sportstar, and he was there from the Hindu, and he introduced Suseraj, Nanda, Edwin, and I think Pandian that day. Four players were in his room. This is an office inside the Hindu premise itself. And he was telling about how, these are excellent footballers. And I particularly remember Nanda saying that he's from Vyasarpadi. And I had not heard about this place. So I
Mm.
inquired where Vyasarpadi is from. And people were like, it's a shady place, it's a slum, it's a ghetto, it's very notorious for crimes and things like that. Yet, strangely, a lot of footballers emerged from that space. So back then, I had this idea. Hey, this seems like a kind of a story that I would want to do. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it when I was in Chennai. I then moved to Bombay, and in 2018 August, I quit my job and I was like, I need to make a few films and things like that. I quit my job. Next day, I took a flight to Chennai. I had no idea how to approach this story or something. Found some number from online, and that's how I made that documentary called
Mm.
Vyasarpadi Mini Brazil. And even then,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't think of what platform would work best for me. I had actually a long conversation with a Nation of Sport, which used to be like a website back then. They kind of shut down. They were very good. They were into long form journalism, and they were very nice people. Unfortunately, there was some delays from my end also in terms of delivering a documentary. I kind of underestimated the effort that we required, especially when you're doing like single-handedly. And by the time I was ready with the with the video, they didn't have the platform, and then I was left in a limbo. I kept that movie with myself for 3, 4, 5 months, and then a couple of friends advised that why don't you put make your own platform? Why don't you make your own channel and put it up? You always wanted to do it as well. So that is that. One fine day, I created a YouTube channel and uploaded a film. I was very scared. I mean, you never appreciate your own work, right? So I was very skeptical as to how people are going to receive a documentary. And I have a particular style. I'm sure you've seen it as well. I don't do a lot of dinchak for my videos. I like to keep it subtle and, uh, you know, still frames. And those are not stuff that really goes viral or anything. But I had like superb reception to it. A lot of people from Chennai
Yeah.
called. In fact, there is a very interesting story as well. There is some kid from, I mean, kid seems like a wrong word to use. A student, an architecture student, saw the movie, kind of was inspired by it. So he moved. He went to Vyasarpadi, figured what is the problem there. He proposed a plan to redevelop their artificial turf, and that won a national level competition, and hence they're actually going to get a new turf. So I was like very
Oh,
happy that yeah, your work has had some impact as well.
that's real life impact.
Yeah, and strangely, I've had luck that way. I made another documentary about these girls in Patan in Gujarat, that's like northern
Mhm.
Gujarat, and
Pardon, Sprite,
in
right? Name of
Part and
the.
Sprite, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And in a month's time, they got an academy in Parton, and a lot of people reached out to them to give a lot of
Nice.
uniforms and things like that. And nowadays, I get updates also whenever they win. Anything they let me know. It feels nice to be part of their family as well. So I've been lucky that way. I think that is the joy, and that is the what do you say, that is the in some sense the remuneration you generate from doing this work, because you and I know that when you put out an Indian football work, it's not like it's filled with a lot of views and it goes viral and things like that. But even when it's just, I think Parton's Pride has got 2,000 views on Instagram, on YouTube, but even
Mm.
that seems to have made an impact. So it's sort of hitting the
Mm.
right target. That's what I'm happy about, that of the 2,000 people that see these videos, they care. And I'm happy that I can cater to that 2,000. I don't necessarily have to reach 1 million, right? Of which
Yeah.
maybe half a million don't even care about the subject. I'm happy that of the 2,000 people, it's say 1,800 genuine football fans or genuine people who care about a certain cause or something. And I'm happy that my work is hitting them. So generally been all positive and nice.
Mhm.
I also
There's
feel
there's
like I'm
also.
posting so much, but I mean, I'm genuinely happy with how the channel's turned out. So it's more like a mom being very proud of her son. So just happy that way. Yeah.
It's a rather unique channel in the Indian football space because you just look at the language of the videos and the way it's depicting locales and the videos. Sorry, the details of the lives of the people that are being depicted, the way
Mm-hmm.
they come through. There's this way of telling the story through capturing the culture as well. And there's
Yeah,
also this adventurism of going to a place, meeting new people, and sort of
absolutely.
entering their lives through the sport, which I think is very rare, and that's what sort of has me hooked on your channel. And the English subtitles really help in that space. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
what was that also part of the idea that you had? Your had behind your channel, that you're gonna go out and you're gonna go to new places. It's gonna be a excuse to travel as well as see the sports.
Yeah, I don't think I thought so much about it. Like I said, it was more of like an impulsive decision to just make a channel and put my already existing video up. With sports, I think my journalism is all. I never studied journalism. I studied social sciences.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. So,
We all
uh,
get bored and we come to sports, to something real.
yeah. I mean, strangely, it's not bored. All this connected. So, in my thesis was about sevens football in Malappuram. So, I try to look at the impact of sevens football through socio-economic spectrum, and so I had already approached sport from a non-sport perspective while I was in college. So I've always kind of continued that as a tradition to look sports to sort of say it's more than a sport. And you coming from Calcutta, a fan of a big Calcutta club, would understand that a sport is not just sport, right? It represents so much more. It represents people, represents economy, it represents so many other things. So I've tried to always analyze sports from that kind of a perspective, and I think Kalpant is sort of an extension from that, right? So, in part, in its women empowerment, in Vyasapadi, it's a fight against a lot of these what would I say, class and caste stereotypes that has been put on them. So, I mean, I don't think I've unearthed something new or anything. It was always there. I think our mainstream narratives for sport has always been very sport has to be limited to the field. And I think few of us are just going out and say, hey, sports more than that. It's as political as anything else in the world, and it's got its own, uh, so I mean, it's got so many factors that we need to talk about. And I kind of feel that a lot of journalists in India across the world are already doing it, and I'm just part of that clan.
There are a lot of examples of the societies and cultures that are being represented through football. Them being explored in either, let's say, a high production, proper team made documentary movie, or a book,
Mhm.
or certain long pieces in newspapers, especially Bengali or Malayalam newspapers. But
Mhm.
I don't think I have seen that kind of work being done on YouTube, that where it's accessible at all times to a larger
Yeah,
audience. And doesn't matter, the audience is not larger now; it's exponentially increasing. I think over
yeah.
the years. But you know what? Sort of your channel makes me realize that the first few videos that you put up, there's
Hmm.
a Kovalam FC trailer. Next
Yeah.
to it is the Vyasar Padi documentary.
Hmm.
Then there's the Pathan's Pride. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at it, it's like these these geographic spaces could be, from three different countries, could be from three different continents if you just look at
Absolutely.
how different they are.
Yeah,
And yet they're all part of the same country,
yeah.
different cultures, all connected through sports. And it just makes me think of the scope that your channel can have. Like, you put next to this the story of a family, lower middle class family or a working class family in Park Circus, where a boy or a girl is going to a club or an academy in the Maidan.
Hmm.
Or you can put the story of a Shillong Premier League club and a
Hmm.
Mizoram Premier League club next to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just Indian football, and it looks like there are so many different universes being captured through it. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
in some ways, we're spoiled, right? That we live in a sports culture like that, where it's so
Hmm.
varied.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, especially with Calcutta, I don't think I'm doing justice to a football channel if I've got no content coming from Kolkata. But I also, so this was also sort of a deliberate ploy to talk about the underrepresented parts of football in the country. So when you talk about football in Kerala, for example, it's the Malabar, it's the Malappurams that we always talk about, it's the Sevens football that we talk about, or it's Kerala Blasters in Gokulam. So I wanted to do something in the coast, in the southern coast, for example. I've been associated with the club for, or rather, trying to shoot a documentary for almost 2 years now, and things like that. I kind of always wanted to do the stories that nobody else will tell,
Mm.
and I think we discussed this prior to this call as well. I think your organization and there are a couple of others here and there. I think the whole idea is for us to sort of put that ball on the court and say go play. So I don't. I at least for me, it was never the ambition to go and say I want to be that channel that has got the best football content in India or whatever. I'm happy when somebody else also takes it up. I'm only
Mm.
trying to say that there are stories out there. There are consumers for those stories out there. Just prompting people to go and do it. And I've had like a lot of people approaching on DMs and saying, "Hey, there's a story in Pondicherry. I want to approach it." I'm like, "Go make it. If you want a platform, you can put it in mine. If you want to start your own, go ahead and start." And I'm sure a lot of people will come and support and share it and make it great. And I think I think that was the agenda. That was always the sort of an agenda while starting Kalpant to sort of, I mean, I personally love doing these stories. No, I don't want to take this, savior sort of a syndrome or anything. I love doing those stories. I love doing those work as well. And I would definitely want to come and make videos in Calcutta or in the Northeast. And in fact, I was talking to a friend in Ukrul in Manipur, and we were talking about the possibility of making a film there. So that's always been in the conversation. In fact, I have actually spent some time with Kohima Comics in Nagaland as well, in Kohima. And I am also, I know it sounds very pretentious, but I'm also very picky with stories. So if I feel there is no story, I don't do it because I don't owe it to anyone. I
Yeah.
only owe it to my fans, or fans would be like I think I'm making myself a superhero here, but like I owe it to the audience of Kalpanda that I do a genuine story. If I feel there is an element of lie in it, or there are things that I'm not very sure about, I pull off from certain projects.
Mm.
So I've actually approached 3 times more stories than there is on Kalpanda. But eventually you stumble upon Indian football is murky, and you know it more than I do. That it's got its own issues. So sometimes you pursue a story for 3-4 months, then you realize, oh no, this is not what it was, and then you have to pull off. So there's a lot of effort that goes in, and that cannot be shown to the world also. But I've always sort of put my foot down and say, hey, Kalpanda, I'm going to protect. I'm not going to
Mm.
run after anything because I didn't. The whole idea is for this channel to be non-mainstream, to show that
Yeah.
you can have an alternate way out there and still have a decent audience. So the idea is to not, I mean, I will also admit, and I'm guilty also of, halfway losing the plot and thinking, I should do those talking point videos or something like a listicle to get the views and get people to like the account or share the account, follow the account, and also try to monetize it. All those things have gone through me. I'm not trying to act like I'm some saint here, but uh, yeah, I've sort of realized, no, the channel's got to be very documentary centric, and that is a flavor. That's what people come there for. Occasional talk show and everything is fine, but it can't be like every day you put out these 5 things you missed out and all. And no disrespect, I think those channels are like very needed in the Indian football ecosystem. It's just that I want Kalpan to be something different.
See, I think the main problem that we have when we're trying to try an art of storytelling in Indian
Hmm.
football is that we don't really have, unlimited time in our hands.
Yeah,
There's certain obligations that work brings us, and there's instead of focusing on the art, there's been a gamification of storytelling in Indian football, especially in the last couple of years. Is that we know that you write a story and you put Sunil Chetri in the headline, it's gonna get, let's say,
yeah,
3 times the views than some other story of its kind.
correct,
You
correct.
know that a Kerala Blasters story is gonna get more views than a Jamshedpur FC story.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the Jamshedpur FC story less important to write,
Yeah.
right? But
Correct.
these are kind of choices that are often being that you often have to make, since you have 6 hours on your hands, and
Yeah.
maybe you're gonna pursue one or two subjects in that time, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So
Yeah.
what do you do? You want to do the story that's more important to you in terms of its content, or do you want to tell the story that's gonna get more clicks?
Yeah.
And is that a do you feel the pressure? I mean, you talked about feeling the pressure, but how does what does the choice come down to for you in this case?
So I mean, like I said, I'm just a human, and all those things that I'm sure you have
Mm.
also gone through, and everybody else goes through. We've felt it, like the need for the channel to, accumulate more views, subscribers, anything, and that opens up the possibility of monetizing it also. Because right now with
Mm.
2,000 views, 2,500 subscribers, nobody is going to come and put money in it. But I've been lucky enough to have another job most parts of this Kalpan journey, so
Mm.
that I've had enough to save up, and so Kalpan has been like my pet project, and that way I could just run it. Fortunately, I have like a camera and a decent laptop machine, and so I've been so far touch wood, been able to pull it through. But as a freelancer, sometimes you have
Yeah.
to step back and look at other possible revenue generation sources as well. It's not easy. For example, right now I'm traveling with this two other journalists across Kerala. We're doing like an election special, but we're also asking just a very quirky question instead of doing like a classic election coverage. So all that stuff is also happening simultaneously. To be honest, I think I've been sleeping for like 4 or 5 hours for so many days now. I've not had more sleep. Uh, but somehow pull it through. Think you, me, all of us who are doing this, I think we're doing it because we love doing it. We love I mean, journalism or telling stories give us a kick. And so that's been my drug so far. But like I said, it's been difficult. Thankfully, I've been able to sustain it through the income I've generated otherwise. But I wouldn't blame if somebody else said, it's not possible for me. I mean, it is difficult. And I'm also very privileged enough to, my parents don't need me taking care of them. They are okay. My brother is well settled. So it comes from a lot of privilege to be able to do this. So I'm sure if somebody is listening to this and feel that, unfortunately your setup doesn't allow you to go travel and do these stories, you don't have to feel bad. It's also normal. It's normal for you to, have a daily job and not have time and all. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I think we romanticize this idea of traveling and making videos and all that. I think everybody with a privilege or somebody who's got like some incredible will can only do this. So yeah, that is there as well.
While the compulsion is pretty real, I think it's like the way that the views in the short term are being prioritized. It's like a cat trying to catch a fish inside an aquarium. We're still actually in an aquarium. We have not seen the river or the ocean yet because Indian football has
Absolutely.
not reached
Yeah.
peak popularity. So when the growth happens in terms of people being interested in the sports, then the views will come in, then the interest will come in, and literally everybody's going to grow. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We're not exactly competing with each other. We're just trying right
Absolutely.
now to expand the horizons of the sport, and it's stories like that you have told. Those are the ones that actually bring in the new fans, and they sort of give a history or the first impressions of the
Mm-hmm.
sport to new fans who are coming in. And in that
Absolutely.
sense, the videos that you have are timeless. So I think they're going to pay off in the long run. and you shouldn't
I
really have
kind
to
of
worry
personally,
about it.
no, I kind of feel that it's already done its job. You can say, like,
Yeah, yeah.
a few others reached out. There was a vlogger who is traveling Gujarat, and he asked, can I, go shoot the girls? I'm like, please do, please get their stories out. They're the stars, and they
Mhm.
deserve as much attention as possible. And I think through that, Gujarat FA reached out and told that they're making something in Patin. The girls made it to the state team. I'm not saying my video is the reason why it happened or my article for the Mind is the reason why this happened, but I'm happy. I think I played like a minor role, and I think that itself gives a lot of satisfaction. You are absolutely right. I think we are still in an aquarium. I would say a globe, not even like an aquarium. I'm not thinking about it so much right now. I mean, let us all just enjoy what we can, help each other. I kind of like that Indian football content creator ecosystem because I think we sort of understand each other. We understand our challenges as well. I do. I mean, I'm sure there are some egos here and there, but generally, I've personally had like good relationships with most, and yeah, I hope we can swim and reach that ocean or river one day. But even if we don't, even if I don't, I'm happy that I've contributed in that journey towards the river.
Coming back to your content,
Yeah,
you have been putting up some videos with former players recently.
yeah,
Think
yeah,
Dinakaran Premappa,
yeah. Correct.
the
Yeah.
first part has come out.
Hmm.
So, how did you come across him, and what was the experience going over there and interviewing him?
Oh, actually, it's a very interesting story. Somebody from Dream 11 sort of DM'd me and said because I had done a story on Simon Sundaraj. He is a former footballer. He is the last person to score a goal for India in the Olympics in the 1960.
Yeah.
And he was also the coach of Kerala Santosh Trophy team in '73 when they won the Santosh Trophy for the first time. So I found out where Simon Sir lives in Tanjore in Tamil Nadu. Went, visited, did a story for the Quint, and so somebody reached out saying, "Hey, we're doing like we have a CSR wing, and we're looking to help people. And do you know similar stories and all that?" So I talked to somebody who I know in Premier Tiles. There was a big team here in Kerala. I asked him, like, he was also former Indian goalkeeper, and so he told me there is this very sad story, in fact, of Dinakaran. He's played in multiple levels. He was also part of the Indian national team camp and all that. Very talented winger. Then somehow he lost his. I mean, I don't think lost his plot is not the right reason. I mean, ill-advised and all. So he left. He was part of Mohammedan Sporting for a while. Then he left, and then he played with Orkney Mills a couple of years. But he didn't get a permanent job, so he had to come back home. And then the collector back then somehow set up a small tea shop. But then by the time he was like 50, 60, his knee had really given up on him, had like multiple injuries through football and all that. So he couldn't even carry on with the tea shop. So when I find him at his home, he can barely walk. He's got no proper clothes. He had to sell, half of his property, and he lives in the backside of in a small house. His
Mhm.
wife is mentally ill, so he has to take care of her as well. It's just the two of them. Chiranjit, I've no words to explain what I saw there. I was guilty. I was sad. I was angry with the system that you can let a player of this caliber, of this past, be in this sort of a state. I mean, his ego and his I mean his pride wouldn't allow him to tell that on screen. And I was also like, yeah, absolutely. Like if you don't want to talk about the situation, that's your call. I don't want to, you know, make it a sad story video or anything. It is his call. He's got a pride. He's like, I'm not going to, uh, you know, beg for money or something. But his state is quite bad. And I visited him twice. I got him a couple of jerseys, and I took him out for a good lunch, and it was a pleasant experience that way. I'm happy that we could share a bond and spend some time listening to football stories from each other. Actually, even I, you know me, right? So I keep talking a lot, and even I told him about how football clubs function these days, and yeah, it was very interesting. I was very touched. I was heartbroken and very touched by the that entire day. I remember telling my friend, also a colleague, that I had a different approach to the story before going. I wanted like more B rolls, and I wanted it to be like a feature video more than an interview video. But
Hmm.
I just couldn't shoot. I was distraught. I don't know. I think I put out a tweet also that day saying that sometimes I think we journalists also need some counselors, because sometimes it just gets too much. Like, the stories that you have to handle. And immediately before that, I had done a story series on Oki cyclone that happened in southern Kerala. So these
Hmm.
were like, people who were talking about how they lost their siblings, how they lost their kid, how they lost their parents, and breaking down in front of the camera. And I do this video immediately afterwards, and I remember coming home and telling, I don't think I can do journalism because I'm too involved in these stories. I can't detach like a journalist is generally advised to do. And yeah, so that's the story of Dinagar and Premappa. We are still in touch. He sends me good morning messages every day, and
Yeah.
hopefully, I kind of wanted the Indian football fraternity to. I mean, hoping to put out the second part and put out an appeal saying that any financial help would be a big boon. Right now, he earns 6,500 rupees from the tea shop. That now he's given it out for rent. So the rent is
Hmm.
6,500, and that's his monthly income.
Hmm.
And that is just not enough for two people with all this medicine and everything. It's just
Yeah.
quite sad.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to sort of maintain that distance from the story
Yeah,
when you get too much into it, and
correct, correct.
but you do feel pretty powerless also
Yeah,
when you see these things happening, and that in the end is sort of something that oftentimes bothers me about what we do with the sport is that
mm-hmm.
we sort of assume ourselves to be okay, we're bearing witness in the end.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah, true.
first draft of history, or the intermediaries of the fans, or whatever it is that we think we're doing. In the end, we just get to see so many things which are wrong with the sport, and in the either you see something that's very wrong and it does not meet the journalistic uh, uh, standards of proof gathering to put it out for everybody to see,
Mm-hmm.
or it does not, or it's not what you're there to do and you do not pursue it, and you sort of have to go with other things
I
that you have to
completely
do. Yeah.
understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. True. Absolutely true.
Yeah, so it's like that thing, like in the end, where do you think our responsibility sort of begins and ends in those situations? Like there are times where the routine gets in the way of uh, the the best work, and
Yeah,
sometimes the standards of the best work sort of get in the way of getting the work done.
yeah, yeah. I think it's
So
a constant battle for finding that right balance, right? I don't think any
mm,
one of us have. I think that's why I think most of the fights, if you're working in news organization, also with the editor, is the same thing. I think, how do we want to do these stories, but you can't sacrifice on your duties, and it's just, yeah, it's just, yeah, I wish I knew the answer, but like, I can totally understand what you're saying, and I hope we all find it one day. Or I think the whole idea of storytelling or being a journalist or something like that is to, I think it's that journey, right? I think this journey of realization and figuring out the right or the middle path.
yeah, it's at some point, the ratio of stories that are being told and the ones that are not being told, it just becomes so heavy on the side
Yeah.
of not being told. Sometimes I find if
Right.
that's what we're ultimately doing, not telling the stories,
Yeah.
because we come across 50 newsworthy pieces of information and we go with one,
Correct.
and it just
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I can think of it in the past 2 years, but before that, tell me how many journalists were there out there who were just football journalists in India?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was there. Most of them were like multi-sport, and of course, they would have preferred doing football and were doing more football stories. But dedicated football journalists would make things way better, right? Like to have that space or to have that space in publications, or that freedom to pursue stories. I do I mean, I know all of us have done football stories, but were we specifically football? No, right? A lot of us weren't. So maybe that'll change now that there are organizations popping up with like dedicated football wings and analysis and all those stuff coming up. I hope the next generation will pick up the sport more seriously, and the 50 stories that you told about that we want to do will eventually get covered because there are enough journalists doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a factor. There are not enough people in the space at this point. But at the same time, when I say that there are not enough people who are covering Indian football as journalists, at the same time, I get emails, I get DMs from youngsters who are either in undergraduate or going through high school, and they're saying we want to be sports journalists, we want to be football journalists, and I don't find that point of optimism to tell them that, hey, this is a very
Yeah,
rational career path for you to take. You're gonna have
yeah,
financial security and you're gonna
yeah,
have guarantee of work and
yeah.
you're gonna progress. It's we do have a rather more uncertain career path,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So in that sense, it makes sense why there are not too many Indian football journalists.
Absolutely. I mean,
How?
I don't think I'm blaming
Mm,
anybody for not wanting to be an Indian football journalist. It's just very limited opportunities, very little things to be done. And you and I know about the kind of restrictions that they put on us. We can't do half the stories if you're writing for a publication because X, Y, Z. And so, yeah, I don't blame anybody for. I think Kalpant is also partly that. That's my expression. Like, hey, you can't stop me from putting things on YouTube. At least it's my channel. And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we can't point fingers at anybody. What I tell people who ask me, the same thing. I want to be a journalist and all. I say, just keep writing, and if you like it enough, you will take it up as a job, or you will, in the next few years, realize that's not your calling and you will go do what you like. I think the only objective is to, don't necessarily work towards it as a career option. Want to be a journalist, want to be a journalist. You just keep write, or make videos, whatever work these days. And after a while, if you're still doing it, that means yes, you like this or you enjoy doing this, so you will continue, and you should definitely pursue it there. But otherwise, just you've tried, and that's a clear path for you, saying, okay, I tried and it's not something I enjoy, so I move on.
So one of the ways of having contingencies and some idea of stability is one that you said, covering other sports as well,
Mm-hmm.
which keeps you sort of on a level where you can rely on having stories or interviews coming your
Correct.
way
Yeah.
at regular intervals.
Mm-hmm.
Even if nothing is happening in football, you can go to that sport. And the other way of uh, doing it is what you are doing. It is to have video editing skills, have graphic skills, camera
Mm-hmm.
skills. How does that wholesome skill set develop?
Oh, I necessity is the mother of invention. So, for in my case, I always wanted to do videos. I kind of did make small scale documentaries while I was in college itself. So, but in college, I studied in Tata Institute of Social Science. They don't necessarily teach you to make documentaries; they teach you to approach stories. So, I kind of honed that skills of what to ask and how to approach people, especially in sensitive areas, how to be politically right, and all those things I learned in college, but not necessarily the actual filmmaking skills. The rest I picked up because I remember like sitting at I think it was during my first post days when I'm sitting with the editor, and I was like, this makes no sense for for me to ask somebody else to cut the video, and I'm sitting there saying press cut now, copy paste this. I'm like, I should do this myself, right? Like this is a waste of two people's time. And I was constantly angry. It's probably one of the worst producers out there. They probably hated me so much because it was like, what is happening here? I'm telling you cut here. You're not understanding what this is, and they are also refusing to put app like I'm probably sounding very rude here, but they're not putting their brains because they are also being fed by the producer. Okay, I want it exactly here, X. So they are not even listening to the content. They're just like, okay, here I cut, here I cut. And I'm like, no, I don't have the patience for it. And I also feel they can be used in a better way with another producer, perhaps. So I started editing my own videos. So I I learned it out of necessity. And if you still ask me, I don't think I'm a great editor. But since I make my own videos and I have a mental script, it becomes easy for me to edit. It's not, and even now,
Mm.
I don't take up any editing assignments per se. If I have to produce, then I can do the edit as well. But if you, for example, send me a lot of footage and says, I want this edited, I will not take it up. I'm like, no, it's not possible for me because I
Yeah.
want to be there from the shooting process itself so that I know what has been shot. Because a good editor will go through all the footage and then
Mm.
figure out what is the right stuff, come up with a script for it that works and all that. I don't have the patience for it. So but yeah, I developed the skills. I picked up Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, a little bit of After Effects, Lightroom, all those stuff I know how to do, and it's all through YouTube. And so the one, I mean, it worked for me at least, is that if you go sit there saying and Google or YouTube saying, how to learn Adobe Premiere, it's going to be very difficult because then
Mm.
they'll teach you the tools first. They'll teach you what is a concept layer. It never works that way. The best way to actually learn from tasks. So say, how
Yeah.
do I put a cooling glass on a person, or how do I, trim? How do I change the face of another person? And then you see the video, you figure out, and then you sort of mentally make a map. Okay, this is the tool used to cut. Okay, this is
Mm.
the tool used to layer. And I think that way is how I learned it, and I know a few others also who have learned it that way. So I mean, I keep advising that to people also. If you don't intend to be like a fully fledged editor or a filmmaker or something, this should work fine. And I'm sure I still know only 5% of say a Photoshop or a Premiere, but I can do say 20% of it because with the 5% I know how to navigate the 20. I'm sure there are easier ways to do it if you've learned it from like a professional academy or something. But I know how to get my work done. And there is always YouTube. If you don't know how to do this, there is always a solution. I think the toughest part is you to formulate the right question. The solution is out there in YouTube or on Google. You need to ask the right question. That's all.
So, which softwares do you use right now?
I use Premiere Pro for editing. Um,
Mm.
that is essentially the only software that is required for filmmaking. I also edit by organizing. So that means I will put things in folder and then I look at shots that are dynamic with the camera moving. I look at static shots so that I know I sort it in the folders itself and keep it that way. So that by the time it's coming to my timeline, it's already sort of gone through a rough cut.
Mm. Mm.
So it is not the most easiest approach. A lot of people like bringing it to the timeline and then doing the cuts and edits and seeing the. I don't like it. I think it's probably because I edit on a laptop. I don't have like a big screen. So I think developed that policy of sorting my files first according to color, according to motion and everything. And yeah, that's Adobe Premiere is what I use for editing. also a little bit of for social media. I use Canva, and I know Photoshop pretty well. Learned it back in like engineering days itself, and yeah, I think I can quickly pick things up that way, because especially for Adobe softwares, they all use the concept of layering. So if you
Yeah.
take a Photoshop, if you take a Premiere Pro, if you take an After Effects, all layers. So all good that way. So it's easy to pick up.
Yeah, unless you're a Linux user like me. So for
Yeah,
me, I don't even use a single piece of Adobe software. So
of
literally
course. I
everything
mean,
is,
if I
yeah.
were like, yeah, I had my actually the biggest reason for jumping back from Ubuntu to Windows was this and a lot of games were especially back then, a lot of games were not usable on Linux, and yeah, so I mean I tried GIMP, and that didn't really work fine for me. And when you're doing professional work for clients, it's a risk to not have Windows
Yeah.
and all these options,
Yeah.
because they are expecting a certain quality, and we can't afford to not give them that.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, fun fact, games are the reason I stopped using Windows.
Oh.
I realized I was getting too addicted and I was spending the whole day on Call of Duty.
So I had the
Yeah.
opposite reasons. I was like, I wanted to play NFS, and I was like, this is not working here. And it's not like I went and started playing so much. It's one of those cravings, right? You crave for it
Mhm.
so much, then you go, you switch everything, and then you play for 2 days, and like, oh no, now I'm done. I've never had like an addict phase for games.
So, talking about cravings, which part of India do you crave most to go and cover football or make a documentary or write stories about it?
Oh, that is very tricky question. I'll say JNK. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, because I unfortunately, when I was working with Minerva, the game against Real Kashmir got cancelled. It was post Pulwama, and
Yeah,
security was compromised and all that. So that game didn't happen. I really wanted to visit Srinagar and watch a football match. Been
yeah,
following the Snow Leopards, Real Kashmir, for a while now. I mean, ever since they sort of shot to prominence, been following them as well. And so, and I remember watching a documentary. I did two documentaries actually, Inshallah Kashmir and Inshallah Football. Uh,
mhm.
one of
Both by
my
the same director.
both by the same director, yeah. So I remember watching Inshallah Football and thinking, what a marvelous, that's the kind of films that I want to make. And
Mhm.
obviously, not go through the drama or anything. I mean, that aside, um, I thought that was hard hitting and bad. So I always wanted to go to Kashmir. I monitored Lone Star also for a while, thinking Lone Star is going to be the big one coming out of JNK.
Mhm.
But then Real Kashmir came out, and so
Out of nowhere. Even
out
I
of
had
nowhere,
picked the Lone Star as the
yeah,
club to watch.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't think I want to go to JNK and do a Real Kashmir story, but I would want to do some football story in JNK for sure.
It's actually, one of the more important areas to cover in Indian football right now. Just
Yeah,
given the way football has sort of continued, even the last year that we've had football stopping in most of the country, and they had the Real Kashmir Cup and different
yeah.
grassroots tournaments and
Correct,
big
correct.
crowds too.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're using football as a venting space in some ways. They can't
Mm.
express otherwise, so go out and play on the field, and it's also escape for a few. I'm sure there are a lot of stories out there to be told. Tried talking to
Mm.
Danish when he had come to Punjab, but it's not easy, because I'm sure they also get really annoyed, because all people want to talk to Kashmiris about, their struggles, and, do they know, militants? Do they, have they seen gunshots? And I'm sure they get frustrated coming to the mainland and thinking, oh no, this is all we are for them. So I was like, no, maybe I shouldn't add more, woes to that fellow. Let him enjoy his football. But definitely,
Yeah.
I think JNK is one place I would want to visit for a football docu.
You
That is
will
it. I mean, I
enjoy
want
it.
to do I want to go everywhere. There's no denying that fact. But since you asked me to pick, I'm picking JNK.
Mm, makes sense. So you are, you've been working on Kalpanthu for a couple of years now,
Yeah, almost two.
and you have it's got a few documentaries. It's got some analysis shows, some interviews. Uh, is there any particular incident uh, that happened while you were filming or covering a story or making one documentary that really uh, it sticks out in your memories?
So like I told you about the Madurai student calling and saying, how this movie sort of inspired him to, go to Vyasarpadi and make that turf. So that's one thing that really stands out. The connection that I've been able to make with the players in that Rewind series where I interview former players, that's also been nice because
Mhm.
most of them felt respected. That's the word they use. The more like, it feels nice. It's not somebody coming to them to get a bite before the World Cup and just running back. This was one kid one guy. I mean, I think it's unfair to call myself a kid anymore, but he's one guy who is genuinely interested in their story, so much so that he's, coming to some remote village in Tanjavur and spending an evening there, talking football. So they felt nice about it, and I also felt really nice about it. So the connection I've made with these former players in those interviews are, I hope that's there. I hope that's reflected on the product as well. I think at least that's what the feedback I got generally. I think they tend to talk way more than they talk to say a TV journalist when you sit
Mhm.
there and you just switch on the camera and you just have like good fine chat. Like it's just a fun chat. And I think those videos for sure. Parton was another experience. Reaching there was one. I was treated like a school's guest. I was given sweets and we all took photographs together. That was
Mhm.
also fun. Kohima comments. I've not put out any video, but my time at Kohima was amazing. One of my best 1 month. Trying to set up an academy there, and so I think football's given me so much happiness. It's ridiculous how much happiness I've gotten through it. Of course, I've been trolled on social media, and I myself make it very possible for me to be trolled. So I don't blame anybody else, but all that aside, I think when it comes to real stories and meeting real people, uh, I mean, I can only thank football. I'm happy it's there, and I'm happy the contact it's opened up for me.
Mm. Speaking about social media, why do you hate Kerala Blasters so much?
Oh, I do. Do I hate it now? It's a very tricky question now. Okay, I don't hate Kerala Blasters. I don't think anybody accuses me of that so much. It's only occasionally when I say, "Hey, Gokulam is nice," that Kerala Blasters fans get offended. But it's a it's a tricky world out there, right? I mean, you and I know for sure that when we express something like say pro I League, it is necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost always seen as anti ISL or anti
Mm.
Kerala Blasters. So all those things have happened in the past. These days, I don't even say anything because I feel like that particular case is lost. I feel once a Calcutta club sort of moved, I think that's the end of I League, and there is no power on their side anymore. But yeah, I mean, I know I've never been shy of putting my opinions on social media, and I also play with it. Again, a lot of people who know me in real life knows that I'm nowhere the character that I am on Twitter. But I have my fun. I'm like, okay, this is a good tool for people. I mean, for me to change the perception. Make myself an annoying person on Twitter or instigate or do something fun or mischievous. So I have fun with social media. I mean, obviously, sometimes it does take a toll. When I remember the other day when somebody who's quite reputed in the Indian football circles said I'm a fake journalist for saying that Gokulam should be taking care of their women's team for longer. So,
Mm.
I keep getting that now and then, but generally social media is fun, and I think as journalists there's no escape also, right? You can't be off social media also, so try to play along.
I mean, almost everybody I know who's in sports media, or especially Indian football media, there's a club that they like. Okay,
Yeah.
and in most cases, they are sort of reluctant to put that out there that this is a club that I
Mhm.
really like, or I was a fan of, I am a fan of, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I sort of went the other direction. My first, like, my bio pretty much announces that I am a Mohan Bagan fan. So
Mhm.
whatever I say, you can filter through that. You can take
Yeah,
my
right. Yeah,
perspective or you can reject it. But that's where I'm
yeah,
coming from, and there's no denying it. Do you feel
correct.
you have any attachment to any such club or any club out there where where that club sort of tends to color the perspective that you have on the sport itself?
I think I'm biased to Kerala for sure, because that's the connect. But to be really honest, and I know I sound the exact opposite of what people should be feeling, but I mean, I've not been able to connect with any club in India as much as I can connect with Chelsea. I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
the logic to it, because probably because I started watching Chelsea
Yeah, I
matches
don't
in
know. How
early
do you end up
2000.
with Chelsea?
Sorry.
How do you go around the country and making videos on grassroots football and you end up with Chelsea?
I mean,
There's
yeah, I
there's
want to know
no.
the answer as well. It's probably because in 2000, when I'm watching TV, I didn't have any Indian football to watch. Or even if I
Hmm.
had, I probably not the right time to watch, or not the same packaging, not cool enough to be talked about in school. My brother is a big United fan, and I saw a blue team defeat United, and that's the team I wanted to support. For I think for the longest, for I think good 2 3 years, I didn't even know the difference between Everton or Chelsea or whatever team that turned up in blue. All I wanted to was like sort of support the team in blue that
So wait,
managed
wait,
to
wait. Let
defeat.
me get this straight. Let me get this straight. You probably saw Everton beat United and you ended up supporting Chelsea.
No, no, it was Chelsea that beat United. That I remember. Then I
Okay.
remember just a lot of blue versus red matches. So I could have probably seen a Merseyside derby also and thought that is Chelsea. Because I'm talking really young. Like this is late 90s. This is not the Chelsea after Abramovich. This is early, the Chelsea with the Hasselbanks and Sola and all those players, Desailly and Petit and all those players. So
Mm.
I started supporting, but it's not religious. And still in my house, it's a United matches that is being watched. I'm just going there because my brother is a football fan, and I'm like looking at it. So I think by the time Mourinho came, that became like a matter of pride, because we were like consistently challenging United and Arsenal, and winning a Premier League and all. So I was mad about it in school days. So I think in the formative years, to be part of a football club's journey means much more. When back then I had no exposure to any kind of Indian football. So the whole
Mm.
Indian football thing for me happened around like 2010, where I was like, hey, what is happening in my country? Let me, dig it up. Let me see, which team is doing what. I mean, of course, in newspapers you hear about the Goan clubs and the Kolkata clubs and all that, but not enough to impact your life.
Mm.
So I think that's the honest truth. So if you ask me which club do I like Shillong Lajaw, because
Mm.
you know i- just a few years afterwards they were the ones, or like when my knowledge about football increased, this was a club which ideology sort of matched with mine. I was like, well, it's a cute club. But if you ask me, do I care so much that I will die for the club? No. I mean, it's a nice club. I wanted to succeed. I'm happy that it's produced a lot of footballers, but am I so passionate about it? Not so much. Again, I'm like I said, for the 2 3 years I've been associated with this Kovalam FC. So that's also a club I
Yeah.
really love, and I've spent a lot of time. I hope maybe in the next 5 years I will find that true calling in that club. But again, it's too early now to say that, Kovalam FC is my life. I think right now,
Okay.
having worked here and having seen the challenges that our players go through, I think all I care about is, I mean, the one cause that I'm passionate about is Malayali footballers getting some opportunities here and there. So
Mm.
so that's something I monitor. So when a Suhair scores a goal, I'm happy. Or
Mm.
when a Brito gets game time, I'm happy. Or all those things, I'm happy. So it sounds weird. I know it sounds like a lie to a lot of people to not love one particular team, but this is the honest truth.
Mm. So
Yeah.
they're in Kerala Premier League, right?
Sorry, yeah, they are in the Kerala Premier League. Yeah,
So you saw the league last season when fans were still allowed, and it seemed like towards the end, a lot of fans were coming to the ground. And even though like Gokulam Kerala FC had the whatever team Kerala Blasters had their reserve team, it seemed like it was garnering a lot of attention. Do
yeah,
you see that happening in KPL, the local football and the local clubs sort of starting to gain following?
yeah. I mean, I went for the first match of KPL this season, which was between Kerala United and Kovalam Football Club. And there was a good, say, 1,000 people to see that during this Corona lockdown, and not the most
Hmm.
favorable timings is like 4 o'clock in the evening. Um, and it was constantly rising. So I think a lot of people I mean, it's not one of the best marketed event by any stretch of imagination. So a lot of people heard the sound of football and started venturing in by halftime and saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they started watching
Hmm.
football, and so I'm sure more people turned up for the Kerala Blasters versus Kerala United match. So definitely, the interest in KPL is only increasing. I wish the FA would put their foot down and say, "Hey, I think we can do better if we can get like a TV partner, or like telecast makes a whole lot of difference. Right now, it's still
24
just
News is there, right? 24
no,
News for the
no,
semi-finals
no.
and finals.
Yeah, so not for the group stages, right? So
Yeah.
and I mean, there is enough. See, imagine it's just weekend and it's just 4
Mhm.
and 6 o'clock kickoff. I think it's so favorable for a lot of people to watch on TV. But YouTube, I mean, I don't watch it myself. I get really annoyed with the YouTube streams that we get in India. Again, not not saying the particular host is bad or something. Just saying that generally it's some 3 cam or 4 cam setups, and I don't know. You're just so used to so good production being given to us in even ISL or all those top leagues, Premier League, La Liga, that
Speak
for
for
us to sit
yourself,
and
man.
watch. Sorry?
Speak for yourself. I live for two cameras.
Oh my God. Yeah. So,
10 Action or Z Sports. One
yeah,
camera, which is the
I'm
main
sure you've
camera.
seen all this. Yeah. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
nostalgia coming in.
that's when I think of Indian football, I still have that. Or
Yeah.
Doordarshan, which had
Yeah.
the beautiful ability to make a 40,000 stadium sound like pin drop silence. That's I still
Yeah.
see Indian football through that lens. I look at ISL and it's like, what is this? It's a different universe altogether.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think since especially your telecast experience, I've seen most of European football. I
Mm.
can't do these streams, I'm like, oh my God, it's giving me a headache. And sometimes they don't show the scores, they don't show the times. I'm like, I can't handle it. So
You
yeah,
kids are
I
spoiled,
wish
man. You
I am, I
kids, you
am, I
90s
am
kids,
very much,
completely spoiled.
very much. I thought I sort of made that very obvious in the initial stages itself. Like, yeah, I don't know. I want quality. No other words for me.
And at around the equivalent story for me would be listening to Calcutta Football League matches on Kolkata B. because
Wow.
no telecast used to happen. So I used to just come back from school. The matches used to start around 3 p.m. I would get back home by 3:40, 3:45. I would take out the radio and try to get the Kolkata B on shortwave because that was a bit more clear uh, signal. And I would
Mhm.
just listen to, just the match being described, and I would just sit down. I would or lie down, close my eyes, just imagine what's happening. You guys should be happy. Like literally anything, under 18, under 16, women's matches, academy games, local leagues, everything is just you can actually see what's happening. You're not having to imagine how a tackle went in or what angle a cross came from. It's you know, we are right now being spoiled. We're in an age of abundance in terms of Indian football live matches. And I don't think we should be complaining.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it's happening, but of course, I think it takes a few cranky people for them to improve, right? Further. So I want to join the list of people who are cranky so that they improve.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be a thriller. Like DD Sports on the newspaper would publish their schedule, and they would say, okay, 2 p.m. It's live, whichever the National Football League match is happening, and then you would tune in at 2 p.m. And you're waiting for the match to start, and they're showing school kho. Okay, there's no mention of the match anywhere. You're waiting till 4 p.m. and the match is over, and they just didn't show it despite announcing it. And you would hear that the cameras were there, the filming happened, the commentator actually did their job, but the
And still didn't turn up.
video didn't get on air.
Oh my god.
Can you see that's what I'm saying? Like we're in a much better spot today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to the fellow lifers we have in this space, and Nevin happens to be one of the finest. Follow him on social media, subscribe to Kalpanthu, and get yourself into the mailing list for Vuvuzela, because that will be a great way to support another independent creator who is telling the story of Indian football in a way few others are. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with the next episode very soon. Stay safe and never give up on Indian football.